Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keys to Home, episode 7, I think. Plan to Stay. We're going to be talking with Mark today about powerful and essential tips to staying in your home, planning for maintenance, budgeting, that sort of thing. Follow our podcast. Mine can be found at I Love My TN Home on YouTube. Lance, where are you on YouTube?
Lone Driver.
Lone Driver. And Mark?
Aspire Coaching.
With a Y.
With a Y, yes.
Yep. And my Instagram is Twinnessee, TWINESSEE. I have 2 sets of twins, and I live in Tennessee. Lance, what's your Instagram handle? You kept Lone Driver, didn't you?
Lone Driver, yeah.
Okay. And Lance, yours, or Mark, yours probably the same?
Yep, same thing.
And then, well, I guess I'm all over the place. And then on Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm Jennifer Weithman, WEITHMAN, and it's Comma Broker is my business page. Lance, yours is Lance Dammeyer at Fairway.
That's Lone Driver. Lance Dammeyer is my YouTube. I'll correct that after the fact.
Okay, no worries. And then I just want people to be able to find us so they can send us messages. I'm starting to get some, like just with people I've talked to who have seen it, questions. So we'll try and cover those in some of the ones. What have you guys been seeing in your world for our weekly recap of?
I saw the Ohio State Buckeyes beat this team from Texas, Mark's team. Yeah. Over the weekend. There he goes. He's drifting out. So I think there's a national championship Monday night.
Drifting out. Is that what they did on their catches?
Yeah. He's like,
sorry. Ah, shoot. Sorry.
yeah. Hey, it was a fun game. It was poetic justice, that who is the linebacker that picked block? They used to be roommates, tackled the quarterback, scoop and score.
Oh. Yeah.
It's those kind of moments where I start to say that sports is fixed, because literally for the whole game they were like, well, what would happen if? Wouldn't that be great if roommates, and then it happens. You guys ever notice that? I mean, it's almost like on a tape delay watching these sports.
Jack Sawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Jack Sawyer. I'm sorry, I don't know the Texas guy's name.
Yeah. What would the
Quinn
they were roommates? How would they feel? That would just be great. Oh, there they go. It's a scoop and score.
Well, and in baseball, because I love baseball too, there's a thing. Don't talk about a no-hitter during a no-hitter. And sometimes they'll be like, early on in the Buckeye season, they'll be like, and they haven't lost haven't overturned and said it. I'm like, shut up. Like, don't talk it into existence.
Yeah.
It kind of fits the whole perspective of our conversation today on what we want, what we don't want to talk about.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? I have this discussion with people when we talk about doing wills and medical things. Talking about it doesn't mean make it not happen. And I'm very direct. Okay, let's figure out this might be happening. Let's get on to it. Before we go down that road, what else have we been seeing in the world this week? Anything interesting going on in lending?
Well,
or in loan defaults or anything in that finance world?
Interesting. I came across a stat this morning. It was showing October numbers for loan defaults. Said they're up 23% year over year. I think it was at $57 billion already. That was leaving November and December to go. It's quite a spike per what the story read. The little interesting part about it, Jennifer, was there's a little asterisk at the side, and it said this is 23% higher than the peak of 2020. So that's strange. We're not seeing. Maybe Mark's going to talk about that in a second, but here it is, 2025, and we've got stats from October saying that defaults are higher than during the whole pandemic. What do you think of that, Mark?
I think that our economy has been tight, and that's one of the things I'm going to share.
It's interesting you say that. Yesterday, I got on a tear, and I have been doing mortgages for 25 years, and I've told many people this before. Maybe one of the reasons I've been so successful is I've had my head in the sand. Maybe. These last 2 years aren't years you can really have your head in the sand. And what I mean by that is people are like, Lance, what are rates going to do? Well, and I've always been like, hey, you know what? if someone really could predict that, I would be in the stock market, or I wouldn't be in mortgage lending, because I have to wait for you to help. I go do these things myself. And I just told people, hey, if it's happy for you, if you can deal with it now, let's lock it and move on. Don't wrap yourself around the axle. Well, you know what's happened since September? Back in September, they did that big drop in rates, and for about 24 hours, interest rates for mortgages went way down in the high fives. And I don't have that graph in front of me, but there's a direct correlation. That downward curve, up went mortgage applications, sales, and refinances. And then since that next day, the 25th hour, and you've seen me show these charts before, it just went up, 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 up. And here we are today looking at 7.25 on a 30-year fixed.
Yeah,
that's
actually what I was going to
share.
We're
almost at the peak, but that's wild. So I was looking up. I'm going to pull my head out of the sand. What is this? Why is this? And the one answer that kept coming back said that the reason that rates are high, ready for this, guys, is because you have a very strong economy with inflation. And I think
editing a lot. I'm editing a lot.
Things are inverse. So, Mark, can you talk to that a bit?
Well, the point that I can talk to is just people getting into things that they have not fully vetted, and looking for a quick fix out of it. And and that's the problem with finances, I think, generally speaking, is it takes time to get out of the mess that you're in. It does not happen overnight. It's one of the things that I want to pass along to people here is, I don't know if this is my mindset. When I get paid twice a month or every 2 weeks. Okay, there's 31, some months, 28, maybe even 30. Out of on average, just call it 30 days. Out of 30 days, you only get a check 1 or 2 of those 30 days. And
right.
That check is probably, you get to see that and experience that check for a matter of probably 15 to 20 minutes. Because, I got to check to see if my check's, I'm going to log in, get my check. You see your check, and then you're
start paying bills.
Yeah. So it's not like you get it just takes time getting out of debt. But that perspective, I think, is really important. You only get a check, you only get a couple days out of the month. And of those couple days, you probably only have about 10, 15 minutes to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Maybe,
well,
yes. I don't know if that's the right word to use, enjoy or not.
No, to have money. Yeah, no. Lance, I don't know how often you get paid, if it's monthly or what, but I mean, I only get paid when I have a closing. Yeah. So I could theoretically get paid 6 times in a month, or I could theoretically get paid once in a 6 month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's,
And when we're talking about budgeting in a few minutes, that's, I'm sure that, maybe that's a special session, but how you budget when you have an irregular income, it's tough. And if you get laid off, I mean, you're self-employed, but if you're in a W-2 position where you're paid every 2 weeks, if you get laid off, there's usually a safety net.
Yeah.
If I don't do a closing in 3 to 6 months, I have to have my own safety net. So, but I wanted to talk really quick about something that was going on in our world. So, Jennifer Weithman with Benchmark. Philip Cantrell is the owner of Benchmark. And, if he watches this, I don't care if he'll see, I think he has a massive brain. And I love the fact that he geeks out on things that I find interesting, but I don't have to dig into the numbers. And if you are tangent to real estate and you're watching this, if you're a realtor, if you're a lender, if you're in any of those types of positions and you're not following him on LinkedIn, you are doing yourself a disservice. I, to be truthful, don't get to read all of his articles and things, but when I do, it's always amazing. So he's going around, because he truly cares about his agents and educating us. He's going around to all our offices and doing an Ask Me Anything. So I love his stats. I'm going to read you a couple of them. In Middle Tennessee, I don't remember right off the top of my head if it was 2016 or 2017, but one of those 2 years, I want to say 17 to 2023, the average price of a home went up 100%. It had been 225, now it's 450. Okay. Traditionally, what amount of equity rise have we seen pre-COVID and taking out '08 when we crashed? What is the traditional average equity rise across the US?
7 to 8, right? Or 3 to 4?
3%. 3% equity rise. So I'm going to do some stats. I've asked my mom and dad to tell me what they bought and sold their 3 houses in Ohio for from 1969, 74, and 78, and what they sold them for. And I'm going to look at that. But I run into that with pricing for my sellers. We are not escalating excessively. During COVID, it was 20 and 35%. It was insane. Prices are not skyrocketing. Equity rise in October was 4.2%. September was 4.6%. And August was 5.2%. So we're going down in our equity rise. And you might think that's a bad thing, but it's not, actually not. We're returning to the pre-COVID norm. You're still making money off your house. And pending sales, this is important, have been up year over year for the last 3 months. We think we have hit the bottom. 2020, since late 2022 and all of 23 have been the worst real estate markets since '08. And they were rivaling 1993, which was a horrible year too. Inventory is now starting to approach the 2019 levels. Currently, we have 27% more inventory than we did in January of last year. That's not at all price points, obviously. Lower price points usually have a little bit less. Just to take Franklin, Tennessee, 37064 zip code, months of supply in 2024, average 2.5 to 4.5 months of supply. So if every buyer out there went out and bought a home, the supply would be gone in 2.5 to 4.5 months, depending on when you were. Anything under 3 is a seller's market. During COVID, where things were insane, we had like about days to a week and a half, 3 weeks of supply. Anything over 6 months is a buyer's market. In the 3 to 6 months is a neutral market, and that's not a bad place to be. And the good thing about Middle Tennessee, I've said it a couple times, we are accounting for the Southeast is accounting for almost, I think it's 70% of all real estate transactions nationally. So thank God you're living here and a homeowner here. Even during the crises that we've had, Nashville doesn't escalate as hard as some areas, and it doesn't drop as low as other areas. Then the other thing that I want to talk to you about, because I think we're going to talk about this in budgeting, is rising costs and fixing houses and how do you budget for things. One of the things that was suggested, especially in light of California, is calling all past clients and asking them when the last time they reviewed what is and isn't covered in their homeowner's insurance. Is fire covered? Do they have exterior flooding insurance? Do they have, they're hopefully they have a good insurance agent, and we know a bunch that call and have these questions. But sometimes if I'm telling my kid something, they're not going to listen. But if Lance tells them that, and vice versa, if I tell Lance's kid something, they might listen. So if your insurance agent is calling you up and saying, hey, have you added at Christmas, did you get any jewelry, guns, artwork? Do you have any of those things? We might need to do a schedule for it. You might be thinking, I don't want to pay more money. But what they're really trying to do is make sure if you have a loss, it's covered. If you hear it from a secondary or third or fourth source, then you might be going, this is something I really need to do. And kids, it's something you really need to do. And after this next statement, I'll turn it over to Mark. There's a young man that I follow on Instagram, and I tell a lot of my first-time buyers to follow him because he does home maintenance and cleaning and organizing. Every week he puts out a new tip, and I'll look up his name and share it out to everybody. But one of the ones this month was go through your home with your phone, because we all have them now, and video what you have. Yep. Go to your closets, go to your shoe rack, go to your kitchen. If you had to replace everything in your house, and this goes for renters too, and you only have $20,000 replacement, and do you have actual cash value or do you have replacement value? The TV behind me, it's blurred out. But how much is it to buy a replacement for that TV? As opposed to that's a 7-year-old TV or whatever it is, and now it's only worth $50. So do you have replacement value? Do you have actual cash value? Do you have enough to get what you have covered replaced? Is there a catch like on jewelry that they're only going to give you a small amount unless you have a rider? I know historically, because my parents had an agency, about $1 per every 1,000. So if you had a $5,000 ring, I think it costs you an extra $5 to $10 a year to insure that. Now that might be changed and different now. Do you or do you not have sinkhole coverage in Tennessee? Do you have earthquake coverage? I don't think my house is going to fall down with an earthquake, but I could have some structural damage if New Madrid really hit off the way we think it might. So these are, I mean, they're scary topics. But to me, if you're out on a boat in the ocean, it's scarier to know that there's a storm coming if you don't know that there's a lifeboat. And that's what Mark's going to talk to us, I think, about today is where is the buoy? Where is the lifeboat? And yeah, you could do a GoFundMe and your insurance can take care of part of it. But if you can swim when you fall in the water and not in a storm, obviously that's different. But if you can swim, you're going to be able to hold on better, even if it is waiting until you're in a FEMA situation, waiting for something to come and assist you more, you're able to tread water. So I think that's what, Mark, are you going to talk to us about is kind of learning to swim and stay afloat and planning to stay in your house.
Yeah, absolutely, Jennifer. In fact, actually, that's a great segue into this topic. And really, we've got to start thinking and planning in a broader scale. We've got to start thinking about. We can't necessarily prevent everything, but we do have to expand this out to figure out and have a plan and a strategy to be able to stay in your home. You've worked very hard. If you've been following our podcast all the way up to this point, you have gone through the different stages of working with a realtor. You know and understand the loan process. You know the various loans that are out there. And you've budgeted, you've figured out a budget for your home or for your lifestyle. Now we've got to figure out, we've got to expand that. It's not just buying the home, it's actually staying in the home. And in fact, a lot of times, going back to our last podcast, buying the home is the easy part. Maintaining it and staying in it can be the hard part. And it doesn't always have to be about the house. It can be job losses. It can, and how we offset that. That can be a risk. So overall, what we're talking about is one specific thing that seems to show up when we don't want them to show up and want it to show up, and that's Murphy. And
knock knock.
I was going to say, Jennifer, do you have a knock knock joke for Murphy?
I do. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Murphy.
Murphy who?
Murphy, your new roommate. You might not see him, but he's hanging out.
Exactly.
And it's true. It happens from day one. And people are like, oh my gosh, I bought a house that's a piece of crap. It's a lemon. It's a this. You know what? I don't know that the seller knew about your situation. And if you can prove that they did, there's lawsuits. But I could sell you my car today and it's working, and tomorrow the tire goes flat. I didn't sell you a crappy car, but things happen. And they tend to happen within the first month, certainly year of buying. You may be using that house different. You may be into areas that they never went into. Who knows? Yep.
So give me a second here. I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay. And we can do home warranties for that too. I mean, people have different opinions on home warranties. You got to research them, but they cover kind of what your homeowner's insurance doesn't. But you have to play on some of them by their rules. If your HVAC goes down, they may say we're going to patch it when you want to replace it. But they're $400 to $600. It's not a bad thing, especially for a first-time buyer to consider getting. I know a guy who does those. Actually,
can you see that okay?
No, it's a yellow screen. Go to slideshow and see if it pops.
Slideshow.
Oh, I see it trying to think.
Okay, is that better?
No, it's still thinking.
It's still thinking?
I've got a little circle thinking.
Lance,
It's very faint, white on
The
yellow.
Aspire planning to stage your home. Powerful essential tips.
so you see it okay now?
No, I see a blank screen down here. It's probably my internet. We got
But
new
Lance-
internet next week. I mean,
Lance-
hopefully it's not Mrs. Weithman that
Showing
makes a
up
call.
on the screen.
If Lance can see it, then just go for it. It's probably, problems on my side.
Lance, you can see it okay?
Yes. I
Do
see
we
the
need
whole
to remove
slide deck.
do we need to remove the keys to home banner at the bottom?
I can, but it's not in the way.
Okay.
It does need to, it's showing all of your slides, but you can roll through it.
How many presenters or how many people on a podcast does it take to verify?
I don't
All right.
know. Perhaps we can call tech support.
Hey, am I allowed to tell a blonde joke since I'm blonde, or is that considered bad?
We're not being
At your own
monetized.
peril. Go forth at your own peril.
How many blondes does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
Someone to
3.
turn the ladder. What?
3. 2 to bitch about it, 1 to call her boyfriend.
Very good.
Horrible.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump right into this. So really, the whole perspective of this presentation today is you bought your house, you closed, you moved in, and you've had your first entire night in your brand new home, and we're finally homeowners. The whole purpose of today's presentation is planning to stay in your home, and the powerful and essential tips that will keep Murphy hopefully from becoming a roommate in your home. So with that being said, I wanted to start off by saying your home, we want all of us here, and the purpose of our podcast in this presentation is that we want your home to be a blessing, not a curse. It becomes a curse when we fail to plan and we plan to fail. And so we at the broader message that I want to provide here is that I want your home to be a blessing. And that involves a framework. And can you imagine having that house in the picture and not planning to do any upkeep in or for that house? And that's really what we're talking about. So on a framework perspective, this involves regular upkeep, repair, improvement of your property to ensure its safety and functionality, and so that it's aesthetic pleasing. When you see a picture like that, to me, that's aesthetically pleasing. And it includes routine tasks like cleaning and inspecting systems. Jennifer, you brought a great perspective in by taking pictures. I would go as far as in doing an inventory. It's not hard to, nowadays on appliances, most of the tags can easily be located. I think in refrigerators, it's on the inside part of your door or even in inside part of your refrigerator. Grab a screen capture of the model number, the serial number for your appliances. That also oftentimes comes with a QR code to allow you to register your product as well. So inspecting systems, addressing minor repairs, as well as planning for larger projects. As a client through Aspire Coaching, I actually have a home renovation template that I provide my clients when they're thinking about doing a renovation. And then also that framework is proper home maintenance. And not only includes your living environment, but also includes and prevents costly repairs because we want an increase in property value. And the durability increases or ensures long-term durability of your home.
Mark, we're not seeing all the slides. All we can see is the first slide. So on the left side, if you can click on the next slide,
Oh,
we're
okay.
still on the first slide. So
Okay, hold
use
on.
your arrow, your arrow key on your keyboard and go left or right. Go forward one.
Do you see that now?
No.
You have to be on slideshow, I think.
I'm on slideshow.
You have to be on the slideshow window. Hit Alt Tab and see if you see a bigger blow up of it.
Okay, hold on.
Or on this, I'm sorry, on this one instead of Alt Tab, you're going to have to go down to present.
There you go.
and pick a
There's your
different
home as a
screen.
blessing. Now we see that.
Okay, you see that? So do I need to go over that? You're going to edit this out?
That's okay.
Yeah,
Go to the
I think
next
it's
one. Are
good.
you on budgeting tips?
We're going to go to budgeting tips.
There you go. Now we can see that.
Okay. So on budgeting tips.
And we can see your mouse. So you can move your mouse around as you're talking.
Okay, so
Point of things.
all right, so I want to move into budgeting tips. So some of the things that now that we've talked about a framework, we know we have regular upkeep, we know that we have routine tasks, and we know that we have home maintenance. We need to figure out and plan a strategy so that we can accommodate that framework. So one of the things that for my clients that I often suggest is setting a monthly home maintenance fund. There is a good rule of thumb on your home or on a maintenance fund to save for your home. And a good rule of thumb is 1 to 3% of your home's value. And the key word is annual. Jennifer, you brought this up earlier, as equity and the value of your property increases, the cost of doing maintenance, the cost of routine cleaning and inspections and things like that increase. So the key word is 1 to 3% of your home's value on an annual perspective. On a $500,000 home, you would want to save anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. I'm going to have some suggestions on how we actually save that here in a few minutes.
Well, and the other thing is too, that year you might not use any of the 5,000. You might use 500 of it, but when that HVAC comes, you're going to use 2 to 3 years potentially.
Right, exactly. So so how would this break down? We might look at your budget. Going back to your budget, you might have a line item on your budget for maintenance for your home. And I'm going to talk about where or how we accommodate that in the budget through something called a sinking fund. So next thing is prioritize routine maintenance. For example, it might be the end of the spring season in your area, wherever you live. That might be a stormy, severe thunderstorm, severe springtime weather. At the end of that season, go and take a look at, have a roof inspection done. Find out if there was any damage as a result of the springtime storms. So budget for regular tasks that include things like HVAC servicing, gutter cleaning. At the end of fall season, when leaves have all fallen off the trees, clean the gutters. Believe it or not, if unclean gutters can end up causing fascia problems with the house. That's
making house foundation problems too, because the water doesn't drain out the way it should. And if you haven't heard me say this during our podcast, you will. Deferred maintenance is the killer of equity.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And if you're thinking about the broader thought here is, if you're going to sell, if you're on top of your maintenance, you're on top of your servicing, when it comes time to sell, you're not dealing with a whole lot of costly repairs. Plan for seasonal maintenance. So includes expenses like winterizing your home. Do you know how to shut off the water to your sprinkler system? If you live in the north, do you know how to drain your sprinkler system to prevent any kind of freezing? Because in the springtime, when you turn it on and you see things, have pipes that have broke, that's another unplanned expense. So include expenses for winterizing your home, landscaping, or pool maintenance based on the time of the year. Real mostly important, create an emergency repair fund. So we typically suggest a emergency fund for your personal finances, but my clients and what I coach through with my clients is to have a separate fund. Including myself, I actually have a separate fund for all of my rental properties. That's another perspective here as well. If you have rental property, then you should have a separate fund, emergency fund for your rental property outside of your primary home. So set aside money for unexpected issues like plumbing leaks, roof repairs, or appliance breakdowns. How would we handle a ice maker not making ice in the middle of July in Texas? That might be a $200 or $300, maybe in a $400 repair. Do you have the margin or to handle something like that? If you don't escrow, and Jennifer and Lance, you guys can talk to this. If you don't escrow, budget for your property taxes and insurance. So one of the things that if you're not escrowing, there might be a certain amount of money that you need to set aside in order to pay for your property taxes. At the end of the day, Aspire's minimum savings recommendations follow a lot of what I've outlined on the bulleted items. Outside of your emergency fund, you should have a maintenance fund of 1 to 3%. Whatever is not used can be rolled over to the next year. Your emergency fund should be anywhere from 1 to 3%. You can combine those if you want to, but you should have a dollar figure for each one of them. If you're not escrowing, save for property taxes and insurance. I am going to take this one step further, and outside of my emergency fund, outside of the maintenance fund, I have a separate amount looking at your insurance. If your deductible is a 1% of your home or 2% of your home as a deductible, you can look at your declarations page on your insurance, your homeowner's policy. That should give you the deductible amount. Save that amount up in a separate account. So, in a sense, you're building a robust amount of money to handle all of the framework that I outlined, like the regular upkeep, the routine tasks of cleaning and home maintenance. Lance, Jennifer, what's your thoughts so far?
Well, I have one question, because it's always like the how of things. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you're supposed to go out and run a marathon, but it's really important to know how and breaking that down. One of my first questions is separate account. Do you advise doing that in like a money market that might make a little bit better interest in than a savings account or a checking account, but is still relatively accessible?
No, I actually would. So the answer is yes, but not a money market account. I would use a high yield savings account to save that. And the whole point of this that's really important to understand is this is not an account to make money. We're not saving this money in hopes of making money off the interest. What we are buying here is really insurance against Murphy showing up. Yeah, go ahead, Lance.
Well, yeah, okay. So I'm going to give you an example from my HVAC guy, okay? And from my plumber. I'll give you one from each. My HVAC guy told me every month when you pay your electric bill, change your filter in your house, the filter. And he said, don't buy the super strong HEPA, whatever, because that's like pulling the air so hard through almost like a clogged one. He said, buy the inexpensive ones, the corrugated ones, change it every month, because by spending, and I had a wonking, I mean, it was like huge. It was like 2.5 by 3.5 foot at my old house. And so I think every year in January, I bought a dozen of them. I kept them up on a top shelf in my closet. I think it cost me $150. But you know what that did? it kept my electric bill down because my unit didn't work as hard in the hot months because I had gas heat and I had electric cool. But it also saved me from having to replace my HVAC every 6 years to more like every 10 to 15, maybe. Then water heater, a water heater to replace it, to have someone do it for you, is going to be probably $1,200 to $1,500. Did you know that in Middle Tennessee, you're supposed to, everywhere, but especially Middle Tennessee, because we have a lot of hard water minerals in it. You're supposed to attach the hose to that little spigot at the bottom of your water heater and drain it out once a year.
Once a year.
Because what happens is all the minerals in your water start coalescing into rocks. They lay on the bottom of your water heater. They heat up and they start degrading the bottom metal of the water heater, and it's going to explode. And can I tell you what happened when mine exploded in my garage? And this is when I learned this lesson. It was a snow day. So I had my 4 kids and about 3 or 4 others from the neighborhood. I had my dog at that time was having some kind of an incident that she was going off at both ends. And we're having a snow day and a no school day. The dog's having all these issues. I got all these extra kids in my house. My water heater exploded all over my garage.
Wow.
And I had to have an emergency call in the snow to have it replaced. Would have been much easier, no money to maintenance that house. But you don't know what you don't know.
Well, and that's the whole point. Again, why we're doing this conversation. We've bought the house. Now we have to maintain the house, and maintenance and just regular inspecting systems. What I've walked through with myself and my clients, I have rental property. I have taken just as a suggestion, pretty easy. Go old school. Grab a notebook, 3-ring binder, and just simply go to each individual appliance, write down the manufacturer, write down the customer service number, the model number, and if you can, scan the QR code, register the appliance, and or at least know when it was manufactured, and store that in a safe place. You don't have to worry about, and I've done that for each one of my rental properties. And let me expand this conversation. When you do something like that and it comes time to sell the house, what you're handing the buyer is a tremendous amount of history of how that house has been taken care of. I can only imagine that, and maybe you guys can speak to this, when I can produce records of what I've done to the house, how I've maintained the house, that is actually, it gives the confidence of the buyer that's buying the home. This house has been taken care of. This person cared about this house. Yep. And that can make a difference between someone buying a house and going, I don't know what we're stepping into.
Right. And think about this for a minute. I know cars are more expensive than they used to be, but let's just say a $40,000 car, which is, it's up there. Not as high, not as low as some could be. You're going to have maintenance records on that.
Mm-hmm.
A house, I told you, the average house in Middle Tennessee is $450,000. Why in God's name would you not do similar kind of maintenance on it?
Right. Well, you know why, Jennifer? Because it comes to cost. It comes to not thinking that we have to do it. And we may have stepped into a home from an apartment where all of this was taken care of for us. Now we've got to take on these things. We have to clean the gutters, and mow the lawns.
And you don't know what you don't know. That's why I love that young man on Instagram, because he is of an age of a lot of the people that he's addressing to get to it. How often do you see a home maintenance issue? I know a lot of times hospitalization issues can derail people's finances, but how often is a home maintenance, a deferred maintenance that then comes to a critical state needing fixed? How often does that derail people?
Regularly. And here's the reason why. because what we're not doing is we're not planning for what could happen. We're not mitigating risk.
Right.
What happens? What derails people is, from their journey, for whatever journey that they're on, is when we have an obstacle that shows up and we don't have any way to overcome the obstacle, and that's where we get into, I'm gonna take on debt, it leads us to making decisions because what we want to do in this perspective is get through the obstacles so we can get back to what we were doing and quote, what is normal, our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And ignoring it doesn't make it go away. I
Right,
mean, like
exactly.
I'm thinking about, I don't watch horror movies, but I'm thinking about like the clips of certain ones that I've seen. Like there's a, something's coming, but I'm not
Right.
looking at it. Well, that doesn't save you from the guy not murking you.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, we're not going to be able to mitigate everything. However, when we have emergency funds, when we have repair funds, the impact is not nearly as we can overcome the impact a whole lot easier. So, some other helpful tips I've already spoke to: track your maintenance records. So, because I have rental property, I do have a family plan membership with a company in my local area that does HVAC, electric, plumbing, and some other various items. I joined their family plan membership, and as part of that, they do 2 free inspections for both the heater and the air conditioner. And that's part of my membership with the family plan. And at that time, I also have them come out and replace air filters while they're there. You brought that up, but they have a list of all of the times that they've performed regular maintenance as a part of that family plan membership. And to me, that cost is $25 a month. And someone coming out, for $200 or $300 a month, having them come out twice a year pretty much covers the cost of my monthly membership plan. At least that's what works for me. I love it, and it's good. Schedule regular inspections. Include costs for professional inspections of plumbing, electrical, and structural. Fact of the matter is, I'm not doing anything electric. I'm not going to do it. I will defer that.
I'm not doing plumbing. I'll do electric some.
Right. Right.
I'll do
DII, Lance, what was that?
I'll do it all. I own a bunch of buses that are doing from top to bottom, so I can do it, unfortunately. I'm reading this, I got to interrupt you. I'm like, oh, Mark. Reality check time.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean,
Sorry, there's a
Sarah
call
says reality
store.
check there too.
what's that?
Her dog was saying, "Me too." Woof.
Yeah, exactly.
So DIY when possible. Tools are expensive. Shop if you're wanting to do a renovation, you're wanting to do something on your own. Can you afford to just simply go out and spend $400 on the proper tools, or is that going to impact your budget for your month?
Do you know enough not to cost yourself more when you've done it, as my mother and father would say, half-assed?
Right. I mean, look, I'm probably going to hire it done because my time is better spent doing something else. It could take me 8 hours, where it might take someone an hour. So,
Exactly. And I've made those choices too. Yep.
a couple of these other tips are just basic, common sense. Use energy efficient solutions, and shop smart for supplies. So pretty common sense. So Next question on this is, how do we go about saving for all this, Mark? I mean, it's great that you've laid this out, but what is the process? So my suggestion and what I walk my clients through is setting up something called a sinking fund. And a sinking fund is simply a short-term savings account that you're going to allocate on your line in your budget, a line item for maintenance or home repairs. That is exactly what my line item on my budget shows. It absolutely says home repairs, and I put roughly $250 into that account every paycheck, and that's $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. That goes into why does that happen? Well, because in December, for example, I had a blower motor on a heater in one of the rental properties that went out along with the board in December. And the cost of replacing that was $4,000. So $2,000 in that specific scenario. So I've got to replenish it. But guess what? I had the money to do it. It doesn't become a catastrophe, or in this case, your home doesn't become a curse. It just becomes something unfortunate. Okay, so
hold on. I think I have figured out what's going on. I'm going to step off screen for a minute. I think they're burying the cable to the new Wi-Fi we got, which is why Arrow's losing his mind and why I was doing whatever Max thing you said I was doing earlier. So I'm listening, but I have to see if I can control the beast.
Okay. So what is the sinking fund? It's a dedicated savings account, specifically to set aside some future expenses. A sinking fund is earmarked for a particular purpose. In this case, in my case, I have a home repairs account and that's what it's been earmarked for. Start off by making regular small amounts over time, and before you know it, you'll following that model, you'll have the amount. One of the things that I really am happy that I did in regards to my rental properties and my home is going to my homeowner's policy declarations page and finding out what was my deductible. And I'm happy that I was able to save up my deductible in addition to the planning for short-term repair as well. So with that, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to open this up for questions and comments and turn it over to you guys.
Well, it's definitely serious things. I hope people watching this are really watching it, because that's part of home ownership. You know, I've got a daughter and a son-in-law that are wanting to buy their first home. They're probably going to rent, but you know, I'm going to make them watch this, or maybe have them call Mark. And I know Jennifer's the realtor. I know she's telling them this. Hey, only a home. You know, if your rent's $1,800 for a rent in some place, and you can go buy a home or rent a home. Excuse me. You're renting an apartment for $1,800 a month, and now you want to rent a home for $2,000. It's only $200. Well, not exactly. Yes, the person leasing it to you should be taking care of things, but you're going to have water, gas, electric. And when you go to buy a house, all the things that Mark just talked about are legitimate, and they can sink you. You talk about that $1,400 board. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Especially if it comes at the wrong time.
Right.
Because you haven't planned.
I wonder if I know how to fix a lot of things because a lot of stuff happened at the wrong time, or I'm just that weirdo. But
yeah, I mean, in the middle of December, you know, your heater blower motor goes out.
Yep.
And you don't, and let's take this one step further. You don't know who the manufacturer is. You don't know who to call. You don't know the serial number.
Mm-hmm.
You can provide all of that information up front to who, you know, to an HVAC heating person that you're calling. They can have the information when they may be able to, and the cost of that repair for me, $4,000.
Yep. I'm not saying do it yourself. I'm saying I'm the oddball guy that will, and
Yeah.
it'd probably make more trouble for myself when I burn up something else doing it. So
Well, and that's what you have to be careful of is can you efficiently do it or not efficiently do it? And what's the best use of your time and money? Now, I wanted to mention real quick, we've talked about some breakout sessions, buyer's agency compensation, getting out of PMI, who can gift, reverse mortgages. I think we might want to do one on insurances too. And that'll probably be a special guest and maybe two, because I'm talking life insurance and disability insurance, Aflac type insurance, but also homeowners insurance, and then riders for like I said, your jewelries and things like that, but also flood, sinkhole, earthquake. So that, and when, I know you are with Dave Ramsey some, but like self-insured versus buying the insurance and where's the tipping point and what do you do? That might be a breakout session that we do.
Yeah, it could be. Like one of the things specifically, how do you handle and have people even thought about, natural disasters? Like I want to, my mindset is from my journey has taken me to thinking about things from a 30,000. Yes, I have the 5,000 view, but I look at the 30,000 foot view. So how many people, when they're facing earthquakes, hurricanes, fires in California, what have you ever planned your own evacuation? Have you ever gone through that evacuation? I have two-story rental homes. For my tenants, I have an actual ladder that they can use to get out of the second floor. They have fire extinguishers. But graduating this into one, do you know where to go? Do you know how to get out of these locations? How much money is it how much money do you think you might need in an emergency kit in order to get to store or to stay at a location? I'm not talking.
Does your insurance cover your extra?
That's the biggest question, Jennifer.
Yeah.
That's where
I really think I'm going to be making a lot of calls to clients anyway, but I'm going to be saying I need you to go over your homeowner's insurance.
But here's
if you don't know how, guess what? Call up your agent and go over it with them. And if your agent can't do it, get a new freaking agent. Sorry.
Well, here's the other thing about insurance that I don't think people have realized. It's up to the homeowner to call the insurance agency to find out if the replacement cost on their policy will cover their home.
Yeah.
And
consumer beware.
Yep. And what has happened from over the last 4 years? We've talked about this several times. The price of homes has jumped dramatically.
And the price of replacing parts, not just escalation of equity, but to go out and get a new door because yours is messed up, it costs more too. We were talking about that, the insurance companies. What was it our friend said, that there is no insurance company that does homes that was in the black?
That was profitable.
Now, some of them are moving into it this year, but 22, 23 were so bad that all of them were in the red if they did homeowners insurance as well, because the cost of everything has gone up. So anyway, probably getting ready to wrap up here. Next week, we're going to talk about problems that happen when you're buying a home. The week after that, it'll be problems that arise in a loan process. I don't know, like mattress money or closing credit cards or God knows what. Then, Mark, you're going to share with us about setbacks and savings, and what do you do when you hit a speed bump? Do you let it completely derail you, or how do you get back on track? And then we'll cycle back. We'll have a special guest, probably a title contact, and then we'll cycle back around to steps to buying a home, from application to funding and a loan, from not yet to yes, and then obviously any questions along the way. But until next time, and this one comes out on Monday, which Monday is a banner day because Keys to Home, right? No, because Keys to Home comes out, inauguration, and a little CF